I'm Russ Mitchell. Homeowner blues. For the first time, economists predict a fall in the median price of American homes. Up in flames, the worst wildfires in years on a rampage in southern Greece. Crisis of faith. Will revelations about Mother Teresa's crisis of faith affect efforts to name her a saint? And surfing for peace. One American's effort to bring peace to the Middle East with surfboards.
This is the CBS Evening News with Russ Mitchell.
And good evening. The American housing industry is set to make history this week, and for many homeowners, the news is not good. Thanks to several factors, including a widening credit crunch, the prices of homes are falling. And there is more evidence tonight that those counting on their houses as their nest eggs may be in trouble. Bianca Solorzano has more.
The already rough real estate market may be about to get bumpier. Economists predict a government report due out Thursday will show a national drop in the median price of single-family homes since last year. If economists are right, it will be the first time that's ever happened.
Cumulatively, prices should fall somewhere between 5 and 10% nationwide.
The median price for a single-family home is currently $223,800. The median price is the number midway between the least expensive and most expensive houses sold in a given period. Economist Mark Zandi says too much inventory, weak demand, and tighter credit have been problems in some markets for 2 years.
Well over half the country is now experiencing price declines and will experience further price declines through this time next year into 2009. That's unprecedented.
In Reno, home prices are down more than 6% from a year ago and are expected to drop close to 11% in the next year. Minneapolis prices are down 2.6% from last year. And in Hartford, home prices are down more than 5% from a year ago and are expected to fall further. But the price slump hasn't spread everywhere. Home prices are up in places like Charlotte and Austin. With home prices dropping in so many areas, many families could lose a big financial cushion, their home equity.
For those homeowners who've bought in over the last 3 years, their piggy bank is broke. There is no cash there to pull out because house prices have been declining and they have no equity in their home.
And obviously this is a buyer's market right now, but some economists warn buyers should be patient. You don't want to catch a falling knife. You don't want to buy a home now only to see its value fall over the next year or two. So just take your time and choose wisely right now, Russ.
Okay, Bianca Solorzano, thank you very much. Of course, lower home prices should be good for buyers, but problems with subprime mortgages are causing that credit crunch we mentioned. Now even people with good credit are being rejected for mortgage loans. Seth Doan explains.
I did what I needed to do, I thought.
Mary Kostopoulos thought she found the perfect investment property near her home in Brooklyn, New York.
This is a letter that I got from the bank actually yesterday saying that product or program is not available.
Meaning you didn't get the loan you thought you were going to get.
Right, exactly.
Mary's a lawyer with good credit and a salary which she says can cover the payments on her $650,000 loan. But weeks after already being approved, her bank backed out. Recent market jitters are making it more difficult for investors like Mary seeking a jumbo loan, a loan of $417,000 or more. And so-called Alt-A loans are being affected too. Alt-A loans are for people who have decent but not great credit, and they don't require you to document income. Mary's surprised to have her loan fall through. How common is this?
Right now, unfortunately, it is all too common.
Mary's mortgage broker is seeing the current credit crunch expand beyond subprime mortgages.
In the last 10 days, there have been more changes, significant changes in this industry than I've seen in the last at least 5 or 6 years.
Today, it's not only more difficult to find a loan, but it's more expensive to borrow. Since June, the interest on an average 30-year fixed jumbo loan has risen from 6.4% to more than 7%, which could add more than $1,200 a year to a $417,000 mortgage.
I didn't think that having such high credit, having a stable job, I didn't think I would be a part of that population that would have a hard time.
A hard time that for many people has now become a harsh reality. Seth Doan, CBS News, New York.
And now to those raging wildfires in Greece. The death toll is nearing 60 as firefighters and volunteers continue to battle a series of blazes sweeping through the country. New fires are breaking out, and as this picture from NASA shows, tonight Greece is covered in smoke. Sheila McVicker reports.
By a stiff wind fueled by a tinder-dry summer, across Greece, the hills are going up in flames. In village after village, residents have watched as the fires race through timberlands, across pastures, and then into town. You've got to go, one man tells his neighbors. Terrified to stay, afraid to leave with too little equipment to do anything that would make a difference. People are waiting until the last possible minute to make their escapes. Some have waited too long. The fires have moved so fast that some of those who tried to erase the flames died in their cars. Greek officials say dozens are dead, among them a woman and her 4 children. The Prime Minister has declared a state of emergency, calling this an indescribable national tragedy. The very strong suspicion is that this is the work of criminals, perhaps unscrupulous property developers. It's happened here before. Greek TV has broadcast this amateur video claiming that these 2 men are arsonists at work. As they leave the hillside, the first wisps of smoke can be seen. One piece of good news, firefighters managed to stop the flames outside the archaeological site of ancient Olympia, home to the first Olympic Games. And Greek pleas for assistance have been answered. More water-carrying helicopters and planes arrived today. But fires are burning in more than half the country. And in too many places, especially at night, there is still not enough help. Sheila McVicker, CBS News, London.
The war of words between Washington and Iraqi Prime Minister Maliki continues tonight. While the Iraqi leader celebrated a victory today, lawmakers in this country kept up their attacks on the Prime Minister and also took aim at the White House. Joey Chen has the latest.
Eager to trumpet any move toward reconciliation, Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki today joined leaders of Iraq's warring factions to proclaim a rare agreement had been reached. Though the parties didn't explain how their unity statement might help stop sectarian violence. It may only be a small step forward, but it comes at a key moment as Maliki fights back against calls for his ouster by U.S. lawmakers, including presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton and Michigan Senator Carl Levin. Today, Maliki said the Democrats should, quote, come to their senses. Instead, presidential contender John Edwards piled on.
I think that Maliki should quit worrying about Democrats and the presidential campaign in America and start worrying about what he needs to do in his own country.
That demand is coming from both Democrats and Republicans, including Virginia Senator John Warner.
Maliki has let down the American forces, the coalition forces, indeed the president, in not carrying through with his part of the bargain.
Last week, Warner became the highest-ranking Republican to break with the president and urge him to begin withdrawing U.S. troops as early as Christmas.
Something has got to be done to put teeth in these constant statements made by our president and others. We're not going to stay there forever.
Warner said he may even sign on to Democratic efforts to mandate a troop withdrawal if the president doesn't act quickly. Feeling the heat, administration officials are set to meet with top commanders this week, both here and in Iraq, to talk about the stress the Iraq deployment has put on U.S. forces and how much more, Russ, the military can take.
Joey Chen at the White House tonight. Thank you very much. A scare in the air this weekend for passengers on board a Frontier Airlines flight from Denver to New York. Randall Pinkston has more on a plane ride that ended with one passenger literally taped to his seat.
Bobby Vigil's vacation began when a fellow passenger sat next to him.
He just was very nervous and fidgety and just couldn't stay still in his seat.
2 hours later, 30,000 feet up, Vigil's seatmate suddenly rushed to the rear of the plane.
I heard the flight attendant that was in the rear of the plane yell, "I need some help."
Vigil was in 13B. The unidentified passenger in 13C, described as a 35-year-old Asian man who spoke little English, allegedly tried to open a rear exit door, but was stopped by the passenger in 14C.
I had him in a chokehold, and they brought him back to his seat.
He was duct taped to his seat. In a flash, passengers feared a repeat of September 11th.
Some of the ladies were screaming on board, and I think, that really came across their mind is Flight 93 because they were scared.
Vigil says he was never frightened.
You didn't feel like there was a terrorist threat?
You know what? I really didn't. I just knew this guy needed help, and he was just finding a way to get off the plane.
It's Vigil's first trip to New York and one he won't forget. The disturbed passenger is being treated in a mental hospital and has not been charged. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, New York.
And still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, catching a wave for peace in the Holy Land. But when we come back, Mother Teresa's doubts about God. Will that hurt her chances for sainthood? The news last week that Mother Teresa had struggled with doubts about the existence of God for years shocked many people. A newly published book of her letters revealed that Mother Teresa was so filled with doubt that she feared she was being a hypocrite. In 1948, shortly after starting her work among the poor in Calcutta, she wrote, "Where is my faith? Even deep down there is nothing but emptiness and darkness. If there be God, please forgive me." 8 years later, she wrote, "Such deep longing for God, repulsed, empty, no faith, no love, no zeal." According to the letters, she apparently died with her doubts. Mother Teresa has been on a fast track to sainthood since her death 10 years ago. And joining us from Rome is Father Thomas Williams, a CBS News analyst. Father Williams, thank you for joining us tonight.
Great to be here, Russ. Thank you.
What do these letters say to you about Mother Teresa?
Well, I find them actually kind of exciting, and for two reasons. One is that we often think of saints as some extraterrestrial being hatched from an egg that never had any problems, no doubts, everything was just smooth and easy. And we realized with the struggle that she went through how difficult it was for her, and yet she persevered. That's very exciting. It's very moving to me. The second thing is that in our cynical age, we often, when we see a person doing good for someone else, we think, what's in it for them? What are they getting out of it? And these letters reveal that she was getting very little out of it. At least in her senses, she wasn't feeling anything. And that's exciting to think also that someone is able to serve people with such selflessness. It's beautiful.
As we said, Mother Teresa is on a fast track to sainthood. Will these revelations slow down that process at all?
I don't think so, Russ, because, remember that these letters have been known, they've been analyzed, read through by the group, the commission put together by the Vatican for the last several years now since the cause of Mother Teresa was introduced, so they're very familiar with these texts. And also, she's not alone. In the history of the Church, there have been many cases that have a similar flair to them.
Mother Teresa wanted these letters destroyed. Why would the Catholic Church allow them to be released now?
Well, I think that they see them as important, as part of the patrimony of the Church, the patrimony of Christianity, to look at how a soul, a very beautiful soul, related to God and went through this time of difficulty. And it's meant to be a consolation, I think, for us who struggle in the same way.
Father Thomas Williams joining us from Rome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You take care. And just ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, how America's good war in Afghanistan went bad. A new UN report says Afghanistan is growing enough opium to make 90% of the world's heroin and will have a record poppy crop this year. Last year, the crop grew 59%, enough for 610 tons of heroin. It is another sign the war there is not going according to plan, as Mark Phillips reports.
The NATO troops in Afghanistan were supposed to be well into a nation-building mission by now, but instead they're still dying in a hot war. NATO casualties are heading toward the 700 mark. These Canadian soldiers just two of the latest in a growing toll. Well into the fifth year of the Afghan war, what had once seemed like a quick, comprehensive victory over the Taliban regime that had harbored al-Qaeda has turned into a protracted battle where the Taliban has regrouped, where ground once taken has had to be taken again, and where there's a conflict between U.S. anti-terror efforts, often involving aerial bombing and civilian casualties, and the work being attempted by other NATO members.
You could find a task force commander wakes up to be told by an Afghan functionary, a mayor, that a village has been bombed. What is he doing about it? And he doesn't even know that it's happened. And it's part of
So he's undermined in that.
So he's undermined.
What was a good war in Afghanistan has gone bad. The appointment of American General Dan McNeill as NATO commander may bring more coordination to the anti-Taliban effort, but his background in special forces has some wondering whether he can see the bigger picture.
I assume that he is wise enough and savvy enough to recognize that this isn't just another special forces gig.
There's a lament now that the main window of opportunity in Afghanistan was immediately after the invasion, with the Taliban dispersed, a power vacuum in the country, and a population craving stability. But it was then that the administration began looking away from Afghanistan and toward Iraq.
I do think that the prevailing view in the U.S. government that we could sort of do this with one hand tied behind our back and then get on to the big stuff, I think that was very misguided.
The Afghans are celebrating 90 years of independence this month. Most of that history has been volatile and bloody. It's looking that way again. Mark Phillips, CBS News, London.
In Utah, there is word tonight that the search for those 6 trapped coal miners will continue. Officials at the mine say a robotic camera will be lowered into a borehole that was drilled earlier. No signs of life have been detected since the mine collapsed nearly 3 weeks ago. Coming up on tonight's CBS Evening News, surfboard diplomacy from California to the Middle East. Some young surfers travel the world searching for the perfect wave. Tonight we have the story of one old and wise surfer who is searching for something even more elusive. John Blackstone has his story.
Doc Paskowitz may well be the oldest surfer still riding the waves. He's a California surfing legend, calls himself the first Jewish surfer.
This is the day that God made. Let's really go out and surf.
And at age 86, figures he's earned some privileges.
I get to be a pain in the tuchus. And the older I get, the less I worry about being a pain in the tuchus.
And this past week, he became a pain in the tuchus in the pursuit of Middle East peace. You might call it surfboard diplomacy.
He comes up with the unusual idea, and then it takes off to another level.
Doc read about the crowded beaches of the Gaza Strip and about the young Palestinians trying to surf, but not having enough surfboards.
So I told my son, come, we'll go to Israel and get them some boards.
But there was one problem with Doc's plan. Things in the Middle East are not nearly as mellow as they are here on the California beaches he loves. And things between Israel and Gaza are not mellow at all. Since June, when the armed militants of Hamas seized control of Gaza, Israel has kept the Strip sealed off. Only essential emergency supplies are allowed in. So when Doc's helpers rolled 15 surfboards up to the fortified crossing, the guards put it bluntly.
You can't go in.
But Palestinian surfers were waiting on the other side, so Doc made it clear to the guards he wouldn't take no for an answer.
I came 12,500 miles. You're not going to keep me from seeing those men, are you? And I grabbed him, I kissed him, and he said, "Don't hug me, don't hug me."
That was enough to get the gates open. The Palestinians carried the boards into Gaza and headed directly to the beach. Doc hopes they'll find the same peace he does riding the waves. John Blackstone, CBS News, San Francisco.
And we'll be back in a moment. And finally tonight, the only thing we know about the one winning ticket in the Powerball lottery, it is where it was sold in this Richmond, Indiana convenience store. There is a fortune of $314 million waiting for some lucky person or persons to claim. And yes, that does mean the rest of us do have to go to work tomorrow. That's the CBS Evening News. I'm Russ Mitchell in New York. I'll see you again first thing tomorrow on The Early Show. Good night.
CBS News. Experience you can trust.